10 breakout candidates for the Minnesota Vikings in the 2021 season. It is always exciting to try to find who's going to break out this upcoming season, who's going to be the big player who surprises us all. Last year, that was Eric Wilson. Year before that, that was Anthony Harris. Before I get into this, we're obviously not counting rookies here. Rookies are rookie of the year only, defensive and offensive rookie of the year. For this, we're counting breakout players, so year two players and beyond that. Players who just haven't broken out. And obviously we can't put like Justin Jefferson on this list because he already had a very good rookie season, so he wouldn't be a breakout player because everybody knows who he is based off of his rookie season. So starting at number 10, we have Chris Boyd. Chris Boyd was our 2019 7th-round draft pick out of Texas, 25 years old, played 10 games in 2020 where he racked up 34 total tackles, 2 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. Now, Chris Boyd is a player I really felt like I had to put on this list because if Vikings do suffer with injuries, Chris Boyd will have an opportunity to prove himself. And you can see he's a 7th-round draft pick of 2019. So he has already come a long way just being on the active roster in general. Since day one, he's been on the active roster. Now, he was mostly put there just because of special teams. He does play on a lot on special teams. However, he is a good depth piece to add to your secondary and will add a lot to this Vikings defense, continuing to add a lot this upcoming season, where obviously Cameron Dantzler has suffered with injuries. Mackenzie Alexander has, Patrick Peterson has, we just traded Mike Hughes. There's a lot of injured players on this Vikings cornerback group where we could see Chris Boyd, a lot more than Chris Boyd as we probably would hope to. So if we do suffer with injuries, Chris Boyd, he is a potential breakout star for this upcoming season, and he's going into year 3, and this is typically where you see cornerbacks hit their stride in the NFL, as typically year 1 and year 2 for corners is very rough going against a lot of these wide receivers, these NFL wideouts. Now he's going into year 3 where we could see a complete different story. Number 9, we have another 2019 7th-round draft pick. Rick Spielman is the best drafter on day 3. He's not the best when it comes to the first, second round, but on day 3, Rick Spielman drafts the best players out of any other GM in the NFL. The fact that we have 2 2019 7th-round draft picks that are making this list shows how good of a day 3 drafter Rick Spielman really is to find these players in the 7th round. B.C. Johnson, stud wide receiver. And we saw this when he was a rookie and Adam Thielen got injured. We saw B.C. Johnson step in as a NFL outside wide receiver alongside Stephon Diggs and did his job. I mean, he looked like an NFL wide receiver. He didn't look like a backup. He didn't look like a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. He looked like an NFL starting left wide receiver alongside obviously Stephon Diggs, who was one of the best in the NFL and still is to this day. 7th-round draft pick out of Colorado, B.C. Johnson played 16 games in 2020 where he racked up 14 receptions and 189 yards. So not a very big season for B.C. Johnson this last season. Obviously 2019, his rookie season was a lot better, but once again, very healthy player. We have Chad Beebe, Adam Thielen. These are injury-prone players. So seeing B.C. Johnson as a wide receiver 4 and can play as an outside wide receiver is a bit of a big relief for the Minnesota Vikings, honestly, to have a healthy player like B.C. Johnson on your active roster. And then the 8th biggest player, we have Tyler Conklin, tight end out of Central Michigan, drafted in the 5th round of the 2018 draft. In 2020, he played 16 games where he had 19 receptions on 194 yards and a touchdown. We're going to see a lot more of Tyler Conklin this upcoming season. Vikings love to run those 2 tight end sets, and now without Kyle Rudolph, we have Irv Smith Jr. as our starting tight end, and then Tyler Conklin alongside of him. Tyler Conklin is not only a good offensive player, but has done a phenomenal job blocking for Dalvin Cook. We're going to see a lot more of Tyler Conklin this upcoming season, and Irv Smith Jr. is another injury-prone player, so if Irv Smith Jr. does suffer with injuries, Tyler Conklin will take that tight end 1 role and could honestly make a case for himself. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Conklin does make a Pro Bowl. I mean, if Evan Ingram can make a Pro Bowl as a tight end, Tyler Conklin can do it too. If Irv Smith Jr. does suffer with an injury and Tyler Conklin is our tight end 1, I could see him as a possible Pro Bowl breakout player for this upcoming season. With that being said, Vikings have got to give this guy a contract extension. The fact that they haven't already is very surprising. Vikings love to use 2 tight end sets. And you have a player like Tyler Conklin and Irv Smith Jr., a top 10 tight end duo in the NFL, you have to give this guy a contract extension now. I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. Seventh biggest player, we have Jeff Gladney, our first round draft pick in 2020 out of TCU. 16 games played, 81 total tackles, 3 pass deflections, and a forced fumble in 2020. He was a starting wide receiver or a starting corner alongside Cameron Dantzler, as we did suffer with a lot of injuries, and we had very few corners on this Vikings team, so he was a starting corner. He will not be this upcoming season, and he might not even be on the team this upcoming season because he has had those assault charges where if he's convicted for them, he will not be on the team, obviously, because he's going to be tried as an adult in Texas. So I don't know how it's really going to go for him. But if he does play, if we are lucky to see this guy play, he is a potential breakout star for the Minnesota Vikings. Again, if we're going to count Chris Boyd on this list, we have to have our first round draft pick on this list as well. 31st overall draft pick in 2020, Jeff Gladney. I wouldn't expect a whole lot from Jeff Gladney this upcoming season, but going into the future, I do think he'll be a great corner. I just don't know if quite yet is the right time for him. Sixth biggest player, we have Chad Beebe, 27-year-old, 2018 undrafted free agent from Northern Illinois. Another player who is a wide receiver that we are very lucky to have on our list. Obviously, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, top 5 wide receiver duo in the NFL. Outside of that, our wide receiver group is not very good. Chad Beebe and BC Johnson are good players, but we don't have a stud wide receiver 3. However, the Buccaneers winning that Super Bowl has showed us what you can do with 3 elite wide receivers. Chad Beebe, BC Johnson, you cannot categorize these guys as elite wide receivers. You saw what the Buccaneers did when they had Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin on the same roster. And then on top of that, you throw in Rob Gronkowski. They had more receivers on top of that. Even Tyler Johnson all the way down as a wide receiver 5. Scotty Miller, too. I mean, defenses could not do anything against that offense, that passing offense. So you do need 3 elite wide receivers in the NFL, which is why Chad Beebe, I'd be a lot more comfortable if he was a wide receiver 4, especially as an injury-prone player who has suffered with a lot of injuries. I am not comfortable with him as a wide receiver 3, but on top of that, he is a potential breakout star for this upcoming season, as he will play a lot of snaps. And if he does stay healthy, is a potential breakout star for the Minnesota Vikings. He will get a good opportunity. The 5th biggest one, we have Ezra Cleveland. First, Vikings have to move this guy to left guard. I do not want to see any of Dakota Dozier. You drafted Wyatt Davis, you move Ezra Cleveland to left guard. You start Wyatt Davis at right guard. And your problem is fixed right there. Ezra Cleveland is a 6'6", 309-pound man. Use him at left guard. What this guy can do for Dalvin Cook is what no one else can do. Yes, he is built like a left tackle, and the Vikings drafted him to play left tackle. However, we just drafted Christian Darrisaw. You have to use Ezra Cleveland as a left guard. This is where he is meant to play. He does not have to play left tackle. You can use him as a left guard. He only played left tackle at Boise State because he was the best offensive lineman on the roster. Use him at left guard because he is not the best offensive lineman on this roster and is a potential breakout star. Our 2020 second-round draft pick out of Boise State played 13 games in 2020 where he played 622 snaps, 1 penalty, and 5 sacks allowed. 5 sacks allowed, not very good, but was the best guard last year. Although Brett Jones was probably the best guard last year. So second best guard last year alongside Brett Jones. He is a core starter. You have to use him somewhere in the starting lineup, and that spot is left guard. If you use Ezra Cleveland as a left guard, he is a potential breakout star for the 2021 upcoming season. Number 4, we have DJ Wonnum, another player who was a great draft pick for the Minnesota Vikings on day 3. In 2020, they drafted him in the 4th round out of South Carolina, where he played 14 games, 24 total tackles, 3 sacks, a pass deflection, a forced fumble, and 5 tackles for loss, including a sack on Aaron Rodgers, where he forced that fumble, that game-winning fumble, where the Vikings beat the Packers at Lambeau Field. So DJ Wonnum, another breakout star for the Minnesota Vikings, who had a pretty sly breakout season last year where he really was our best pass rusher last year, which is very weird to say because I don't even know if he should be on the starting lineup this upcoming season, as the Vikings did draft Patrick Jones. It's possible that they could use him over DJ Wonnum. Brought in Stephen Weatherly. It's possible that he could play over DJ Wonnum. But DJ Wonnum was our best pass rusher last year. Phenomenal 4th round draft pick. I'm very excited to see what Andre Patterson can continue to do with this guy. Now, as of right now, the reason why I have him this high on the list at 4 is as of right now, he is a starting right defensive end alongside Danielle Hunter on this depth chart. So for the Minnesota Vikings to start him at right defensive end, it's possible that he could be our best pass rusher, second best. Obviously, Danielle Hunter's there. So he could have a potential breakout season with the Minnesota Vikings. To be a 4th-round draft pick and to play, to get 24 total tackles, to get all of those stats, to even play 14 games in general. Impressive for the Minnesota Vikings, drafting DJ Wanham in the 4th round. Third, Alexander Mattison. The reason why I have Alexander Mattison, 2019 3rd-round draft pick out of Boise State, second Boise State player to make this list, 13 games played in 2020, 109 total touches, where he had 559 scrimmage yards, 4.5 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, and a 80.9 PFF grade. Okay, so the reason why I have Alexander Mattison so high on this list is because we know, as much as we love Dalvin Cook, we know how injury prone he is. Dalvin Cook has not played an entire season in the NFL yet. And there's a reason why he's not the top paid running back. He should be the top paid running back with the talent that he has. It's just the injuries that is holding him back. Assuming Dalvin Cook suffers with another injury this upcoming season, Alexander Mattison will have another opportunity to prove himself. Now, Alexander Mattison, too, he has been injured all of the seasons that he's been in the NFL. So him on top of that, both of them are injury-prone running backs. However, Alexander Mattison, if he has another opportunity to prove himself, and Dalvin Cook is injured for, maybe he's placed on IR for the rest of the season. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if he is, Alexander Mattison will be our starting running back and will have a chance to prove himself as a potential future starter for the Minnesota Vikings, or for another team depending on how this goes, because he does have 2 years under contract left. So it's possible that he could be a breakout star for the Minnesota Vikings if Dalvin Cook suffers with an injury, or even as a backup. I mean, Vikings have a great 1-2 punch with Alexander Mattison and Dalvin Cook, and having a running back duo is another important thing in the NFL. Just stacking up on playmakers is huge in the NFL. And then second on this list, Cameron Dantzler. You have to put him on this list. 2020 3rd-round draft pick out of Mississippi State. Played 11 games in 2020 where he had 46 total tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 pass deflections, a forced fumble, a fumble return, 70.9 PFF grade. I don't think people realize how impressive that is as a rookie corner to put up those numbers as a cornerback 1. Now, the reason why Cameron Dantzler is so high in this list, now, obviously, I'm not the biggest Cameron Dantzler fan, but, I mean, as a 3rd-round draft pick, obviously, I'm a huge Cameron Dantzler fan. But on top of that, the reason why he's so high on this list is because he has the biggest opportunity. He'll have the most chances to prove himself this upcoming season. He can have a terrible first 7 weeks and will still be a starting corner, because that's how badly we need Cameron Dantzler to perform. The reason why he's so high on this list is because he has the biggest opportunity to succeed. He is going to be a cornerback 1 right off the bat. He's going to be going against Devontae Adams. He's going to be going against Allen Robinson. The list goes on of elite wide receivers that we are going to see Cameron Dantzler going against and will have to prove himself this upcoming season. Now, he is an undersized corner, so I can't say that he's going to have the best season. However, he will have the opportunity to prove himself, and hopefully we do see this happen, because as a Vikings fan, it will be such a relief to see a cornerback 1 be a lockdown corner. I can't say that's going to happen, but he's such high on this list because of that reason. And the breakout player for the 2021 season, undoubtedly, is Irv Smith Jr. After the Vikings cut Kyle Rudolph from the roster, they promoted Irv Smith Jr. to our tight end 1, Tyler Conklin to our tight end 2. Both of these players are making this list. And the reason why both these players are making this list is because we saw Kyle Rudolph suffer with an injury last year. When Kyle Rudolph suffered with an injury, we saw our tight end duo between Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin. Well, this tight end duo that we saw was better than the duo between Irv Smith Jr. and Kyle Rudolph, which was shocking to see. So the Vikings just proved that we don't need Kyle Rudolph on this roster. But Irv Smith Jr., 2nd-round draft pick out of Alabama in 2019, is going into his 3rd year, only 23 by the way, is going into his 3rd year in the NFL. He played 13 games last year. We had 30 receptions, 365 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a 70 PFF grade. 5 touchdowns as a tight end 2. Impressive for Irv Smith Jr. And he will have an opportunity to prove himself, as he will be our 3rd best playmaker on the offense. Well, 4th. I wasn't really counting. Our 3rd best threat for Kirk Cousins to use. That's probably more like it, because obviously Dalvin Cook is our biggest playmaker on offense, but our 3rd biggest threat on this Vikings passing game will be Irv Smith Jr., as obviously we don't have a stud tight end or a stud wide receiver 3 as of right now. So it's undoubtedly Irv Smith Jr. is the breakout player for this upcoming season. Well, as of right now, he is expected to be the breakout player for this upcoming season. because we have seen what he can do. And if he works on those drop passes, he will be amazing. He's an elite route runner, elite blocker, elite tight end as a whole. He is everything you want in a tight end in 2021. And he is what you must use. And like I said earlier, if Evan Ingram can make a Pro Bowl, Irv Smith Jr. can do it too. So Irv Smith Jr., breakout player for the Minnesota Vikings in 2021, is what you should expect. Cameron Dantzler will have the biggest opportunity. Alexander Mattison, if he is given a chance to prove himself, I do believe he will have a phenomenal year 3 with the Minnesota Vikings. So Irv Smith Jr., I'm excited to see what he can do, and everybody on this list, I'm excited to see what they can do this upcoming season. All are potential breakout stars for the Minnesota Vikings, and honestly, you can add more players to this list. I mean, Cameron Smith. By the way, Cameron Smith, linebacker that was drafted in 2019, 2018, 5th round draft pick, wasn't really utilized at all so far, is now coming off of an injury and coming back. He's another potential star. Troy Dye is another player you can put on this list. Nick Vigil, the Vikings just brought in. Jordan Brailford, we saw a little bit of him. Even KJ Osborne you can put on this list, because you can throw just about any wide receiver on this list. So those are potential stars for the Minnesota Vikings. Let me know what y'all think. Who am I missing on this list? Who should I add? Who should I take out? Let me know what y'all think.